Hi everyone, I'm Darren Devitt. In this video I'm going to walk you through the new features we added to the Vanya FHIR Viewer over the past couple of months. So my vision for Vanya from day one was to be able to run complicated search queries using include and rev-include parameters and to see the results in a simple and accessible way. So that's now complete, and let me show you. I'll click on the FHIR search query button here inside Vanya, and now I'm going to write a search query that accesses a FHIR server on Microsoft Azure. So I'll build it up from the beginning. Let's say we want to look at encounter resources. And we can see now we have 10 encounters coming back from the Azure server. Let's sort them by last updated date. So we'll add a sort parameter. Sorting was last updated. And there we go. And maybe we'll change the count to 15 so we have a few more resources to look at. That's count equals 15. Okay, and I would also like to see how many resources there are in the FHIR server that match the query. So we'll add a total equals accurate 5,113. So maybe we decide we want to filter the results based on status or class. So let's add a new search parameter for class and say, give me emergency encounters only. And there we can see the emergency encounters. So let's just switch that back to ambulatory, just see all of those. And you can see we have 4,700 of those. So this gives me a flat list of encounters, which is interesting, and I can browse through them and maybe click on a participant resource over here or a subject over here. I could look at the JSON over here as well for a selected encounter. But what if I want to see the included resources in more detail? So I do that by adding either an include or a rev-include parameter. So let's say we want to see the patient resources for all of these as well. So let's add the include parameter. And we want to include encounter patient. And now we have a little drop down here so we can expand and see the patient resource as well. So if I click on this patient here, Xavier, his details are expanded over here on the right, and I can see the raw JSON for that patient with the ID and so on and all the data in there. So it's a very easy way to see the resource for the patient, which is linked to the encounter. So let's go a little deeper. Let's say I want to see every observation that was also made during this encounter. Now, observation isn't linked to from encounter, but it does link back to encounter. So that's basically a rev-include or reverse include. So I'll add the rev-include parameter now. And we want observation. And we want observations that link back via the observation encounter element. Okay, so we have results, but we also have a warning at the top. And the warning is an operation outcome, you can see over here. And the operation outcome comes from the Microsoft Azure FHIR server telling us that the included result was truncated. What this means is there were too many included results coming back, so the Azure server is truncating them and only giving us some of them. So that's not good because I want to see everything, all observations connected to all of the encounters. So maybe if I change the count to 10 instead of 15 and run that, we might get everything for those 10 encounters. Yes, we do. So no operation outcome for this query. So let's open them up and see if we can see any observations. There we go. So the first encounter, we have the patient still because that's still there under the include. And we have what look to be about 10 observations. A lot of different observations, blood pressure readings there, cholesterol reading, body mass index. So this looks like a regular GP visit where all these vital signs were taken and measurements taken. Now this test data I'm using, this comes from Cynthia, who generate a lot of test data, FHIR data and other data. And it's very good data, even though the patient names tend to be a bit unusual and have these numeric values sometimes. And again, we can see here one encounter with one observation, an oral temperature. And if we paginate to the next page of results, we can see quite a bit more. Patient, lots of observations there. So I could extend this query to include lots of included resources, lots of reverse includes. I could include the participants and the service provider. I could include maybe any medications that or medication requests that were made during the encounter. Anything that links back to the encounter can very easily now be displayed in this kind of hierarchical structure with observations and other resources connecting up to what looks to be a parent encounter, even though in FHIR terms it's not really a parent. So let's see if we can run the same query on a different FHIR server. So the drop-down list here, I've already configured about 7 or 8 FHIR servers. We'll choose MedPlum because I have a MedPlum server that I added some test data to as well. Let's have a quick look there. And again, yeah, here we go, 205 encounters, similar kinds of data, lots of observations and patients and so on as well. So we'll jump back to Azure and I'll show you one more type of query that we can run. Let's click over here and just see the most recently updated patients, and we get one of those. So here we have 280 patients. We have this Xavier character at the top, and looking at the JSON, the meta section of the JSON result, we can see there are 5 versions of this particular patient, which means the resource was updated 5 times. So let's just take the ID here of the resource. This is the logical ID, the FHIR ID. Go back into the search query page. Do a different query now. We look for the patient first with that ID, and we should see one resource. There he is, Xavier. And there are 5 versions. So now we're going to make a call to the history endpoint to see the historic versions of this patient resource. And you can see there are 5 here, sorted in last updated dates. So the first one was from July of this year. And you can see his name had some numerics after it. This is because Synthia does that sometimes when they generate synthetic data. So that was changed earlier today. The numerics were removed. And the address here was changed in the next version of the resource. That's version 3. And what did I change after that? We changed, I think, the marital status. So he was married and now he's single. And we changed something else as well, the telephone number as well. So running a query like this to the history endpoint in Vanya, a very quick way to see the history of changes to a resource. So great tool for developers, something I use a lot and have used a lot in the past couple of months. So these new features were released last weekend. You can download versions of Vanya now for Windows and Mac from the Vanya Labs website. As always, feedback is more than welcome. The next stage of our development process, we'll be adding a folder structure where you can save these queries so you can very easily access them if you want to run them repeatedly. So very much looking forward to that. Thanks for listening.